It's November 16th in New Jersey. The hunting season started back in August, and I've been hunting as often as I can. Weekends, even during the week, if my wife is working a late shift and I could get away with it. This is my first solo hunting season. 1 week ago, I went in to go and do a sit, only to find that my ladder stand, my wife's, and my hang-on stands, climbing sticks, and all of our trail cameras were all stolen. People suck, and I guess that's the risk of leaving your gear and hunting on public land. I did the only thing I could do, and I went to Dick's Sporting Goods. It's the only store that had hunting gear that was within an hour and a half of where I lived, that I knew of anyway. I bought the cheapest hang-on stands I could find and the cheapest climbing sticks so that we could get back in there. I was able to get them set up on the 13th. I wanted to do it for the week because this is the whitetail rut. I wanted to be sitting in a tree stand that weekend. I set up our tree stands over this field where there's a lot of edge habitat. We're set up about 150 yards apart from each other. Saturday morning, the weather is supposed to be good for this time of year in New Jersey, and the wind is supposed to be in our favor. So now it's the morning of the 16th. We get in 45 minutes before legal light. Weather's in the low 20s, and the wind is swirling mad, going in every single direction. We are both miserable as we climb into our tree stands and sit down. And as soon as my wife starts getting settled in, she hears movement and stops. Her bow is halfway up. She's pulling it up her gear rope, and it's halfway to the tree stand. And she hears something. It's still dark. It's well before legal light still. And sure enough, she sees a buck. And the buck is looking around, doesn't really know she's there, and she's slowly pulling up the gear rope, getting her bow ready. She gets the bow out. She's looking. The buck is moving now, and it's moving away from her. No chance for her to take a shot. Still too early. But for me, the buck is heading right in my direction. About 20 minutes after legal light, we've been sitting now for a little bit, both freezing, shivering, but I am fixated on this deer. And as he approaches me, he gets to 20 yards and I range him, and I'm shaking like a madman. And I muster the courage to calm myself, draw my bow back, and let my arrow loose. And I kind of go blank. I just black out. I don't really remember everything that happens, but my wife says he runs across the field and runs through these dense, thick trees. And sure enough, he crashes. He makes it a whole 75 yards maybe from where he was when I shot him until I find him. I just killed my first animal ever. Welcome to the EndurHunt podcast. I'm your host, Andrew the Kosovic. Join me as I share my experiences as an emergent hunter, offer advice on how to overcome challenges, and pursue your passion for hunting. I hope you enjoyed the story of my very first whitetail deer, my first big game animal, my first hunting animal of any kind ever. I had to work very hard to get that buck, and I will remember that hunt for as long as I live. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, thank you for tuning in. I'm happy to have you here. Share a little bit about myself. I am an emergent hunter, also known as an adult onset hunter. I started hunting back in 2018 when I was 25 years old, and although I did not punch my tag in Montana that year, I was hooked on hunting, and I knew I needed to hunt as often as I could. I've been out west on a western big game hunt every year since, and I've always hunted the state that I've lived in as well. I hope to share both my successes and my failures to help you along with your journey and convince you to join me in this awesome pursuit of outdoors and hunting. Today, we are talking all about the one thing that has led to hunting success for me time and time again. That is persistence, or never giving up. There's a difference between persistence hunting and what I'm talking about when I say persistence. So many hunters throw in the towel and head home early before they should have. In my opinion, I think this is a huge problem, and it is tough. Hunting is very difficult. I want to provide some examples of times where sticking it through and not giving up has made all the difference for me, and if I had thrown in the towel early, I never would have punched my tag. The story you just heard, my first deer ever, would not have happened if we decided not to sit that day. It would have been very easy, and we were both very tempted to just turn around and go home. The weather was miserable. Neither of us were in a good place. My first and only pronghorn in Wyoming. Took 4 days of hunting and at least 15 or 16 failed stalks before I was able to connect with mine. My biggest buck in Texas, I screwed the pooch, and on a 3-day long weekend hunt, totally shot over the back of a really nice buck on the first day, and I didn't get another chance at one until the morning of day 3. My first elk was a grueling 5-day hunt where I only saw one cow and no bulls until the last day of the hunt. It has played out for countless others as well. I mean, how many YouTube videos can you watch of guys hunting just to see that things were struggling and they had difficulties until the end of the hunt? Those last few days, or when they faced that bit of adversity, they decided to just push a little bit further, go that one extra ridge, and it all worked out for them. Now, this isn't to say that sticking it out every single time is the right answer. There are times where you're just in a bad location and you need to relocate. We'll talk about that more, but I wanted to cover this topic as I think that there are so many hunters that give up, they beat themselves up, and they throw in the towel just a little bit too early. So I want to cover why I think this happens, some of the contributing factors for it, and some action items or steps that you can take to try and set yourself up for success on your next hunt. So what are the struggles that we face? I mean, first and foremost, hunting is difficult. I struggled with this myself. That first day of the hunt, you're extremely motivated. I'm ready to be out there. And then after a couple of days, if things don't go well, I start daydreaming about nice food at home, shower, being in my bed. It's very easy for us to daydream and get caught up in this stuff. So I am guilty of this too. I've gotten better in the years that I've been hunting, but I still have a very long way to go. You may be a hunter who has had opening day success. I have not been that person ever. And part of me is happy about that because I like to put in hard work. I like to feel like I'm earning something, not to discount that you put in work beforehand so that you can have success on opening day. But I think for most people, opening day is not when you're going to find your success. You're going to have to put in a little bit of work. And that is where struggle number 1 comes in. Hunting is just hard. I mean, it is a lot of work. It is physically exhausting. You are using mental capacity trying to play this chess match with whatever animal you're pursuing, and you have to face the elements on top of everything. And if you're doing a backcountry hunt, you have to carry all of your food. You have to plan where your water is going to be, how much water you need, where you're going to get it from, purifying that water, cooking food. There are a lot of complexities that go into it. Not only is the pursuit in and of itself difficult, all of the logistics and everything that goes on behind the scenes that you have to think about adds on to it. Not only is it difficult, but it takes you away from your house. If you're married or you have kids, it takes you away from your family. It's a completely different style of food. There is a lot more that goes into it that you have to be willing to deal with and be prepared for. The mental aspect, the mental game of hunting is where you are going to find your most struggle. Yes, there are physical discomforts and physical pain, but your brain, your mind is the thing that's going to tell you that it would be easier to just go home, go to town, get a burger, we'll come back. Right. I think we often underestimate, and maybe this is due to a lack of planning, or we overestimate how capable we are and how easy a hunt is going to be. I do think that we often underestimate just how challenging a hunt is going to be, how much effort is going to go into it, and how long it's going to take. If you've ever worked on a car and you're doing a job that you're like, yeah, it should be about 2 hours, and the next thing you know, it's been 4.5, 6 hours, then you know what I'm talking about. The other thing is, leading up to the hunt, there's all of this anticipation. You're excited. If you're driving across the country, you're going there, you are ready to go. Day 1 comes. Motivation out the door. I can't even sleep the night before. My wife will tell you. She knows when I'm about to go on a hunt because good luck getting me to bed. It ain't going to happen. I might as well just go and just start driving or get ready, and then I just can't wait. I get too excited. But that fades. After 2 days of hunting and not finding success, a little bit of sleep deprivation, the motivation wears off. And now you're in the grind. And this is where it gets difficult. This is where you have to put in the work and set yourself up for success. So what can you actually do about it? As with most things in hunting, the preparation is key. You want to be prepared ahead of time. Consider the options and what you can do before you get into the hunt. Once you're on day 3 or day 4 of a 5-7 day hunt and that nagging thought creeps into your head that it'd be easier to go home right now, it's going to be very hard to beat that. If you take some time, do some steps beforehand, it will alleviate your issues somewhat. They will still be there, but you'll be more prepared to deal with them. So, what are some of those steps that you can take? The first thing, in my opinion, is to just do difficult things. I think that mental resilience and mental toughness are a skill. They can be learned, they can be honed and practiced. The more you do difficult things, the more you'll be able to do difficult things. I've done a podcast on this. I think it's episode 11, talking about getting mountain tough in Texas. One of the things I talk about on there in the mental toughness portion is the program called 75 Hard. If you want to practice doing difficult things, even when you don't want to, or your nagging voice is telling you to just stay in bed, do 75 Hard. If you can manage to get yourself out of bed and do a 45-minute workout every single day, twice a day, for 75 days, that is a lot of practice. I think that doing difficult things will help you set yourself up for success when it comes time to grind and push through the discomfort. Push through those thoughts that are telling you that it would be easier to go home. Going to the gym, practicing some form of martial art, in addition to doing something like 75 Hard or in replacement to doing 75 Hard, I think that these are good pursuits that will push you. You need to do things that you enjoy, right? If you don't get some sense of satisfaction or progress out of it, you're not going to want to do it. It's going to make it that much harder. But they need to be difficult enough that you have to go some days and think, I don't want to do this. And then you do it anyway. And then the next time you don't want to do it, you do it again anyway. The more you build those up, those experiences, they compound over time, and it will make it easier for you to do it the next time. That is step number one. I think just do difficult things at home. If you can do difficult things, build up that pattern of doing them and being able to push through the discomfort, you are setting yourself up for success when it comes to a backcountry hunt. Solution number two, in my opinion, is doing your e-scouting and your hunt planning to the fullest. Don't just have plan A, have plans A through D, E, maybe F. The last thing that you want to do is put all of your eggs in one basket going into a hunt just to get there and realize that the terrain doesn't look anything like that. There are no animals. The maps that you were looking at are outdated. Everything looks different on the ground. And now you are scrambling to look at your phone, trying to see what your maps options are, what other units maybe you could do, or what other areas of the unit you could do, and figure things out. If you work through that plan beforehand, you spend the time before the hunt to get all of your planning options done. You figure out, where's the water going to come from? How much food do I need? If this water source doesn't exist, where's the next one? Go through that whole planning process and get yourself ready for any contingency options that you might need. When the time comes and something goes wrong, as it inevitably will, as we used to say in the military, no plan survives first contact. You need to be ready with those backup plans. That will make it easier. So instead of saying, dang it, I don't know what to do, I guess I'll go home. Now it's like, all right, cool. This option didn't work. Option 2, here we come. And then you can go on down the list as necessary. These next two, I think, are kind of a given, but they're worth mentioning anyway. When I was planning for this podcast and thinking about what do I do to get myself in the right headspace to make sure that I don't leave early, I thought about the things that make me want to go home. Being tired, being exhausted, not being able to carry myself anymore, getting sore. And I thought the way you fix that is by getting in shape. Going on rucks, making sure you use and test all of your gear before you go out on a hunt will make it so that everything works the way it's supposed to. You're not getting rubbed the wrong way on your shoulders because your rifle sling, your pack fits right, your body's used to it and adjusted to it. You don't want to find yourself out there on day 3 of your hunt and your feet are full of blisters and you can't actually walk anymore. Use your gear beforehand, exercise, workout. If you're someone like me and you live at low elevation, you're going to go to a state like Colorado or you're going to go to Washington and do like a high elevation hunt, take some supplements beforehand so that you're not getting altitude sickness, or at least you're reducing the chances that you're going to get altitude sickness. Think about those kind of factors as well. The next thing you can do, again, this should be a shoo-in, but I'm going to say it anyway. Practice shooting. I've missed shots before And there's nothing that beats you up like missing an animal. I mean, I have definitely, I don't really, oh, knock on wood, I don't really miss shots anymore. I practice religiously, but there was definitely a time where I missed more animals than I would like to admit. I needed to practice more. I was stupid and didn't really know what I was doing yet. Missing an animal, worse, wounding an animal, will set you back significantly. Practice shooting beforehand, practice shooting in realistic scenarios so that when the moment comes, you know that you're going to be able to execute the way that you think you should. And the last thing that I think you can do is just remember that you want to do this. You've spent all of the time applying, building points. Even if it's an over-the-counter hunt, you still had to do all of the preparation, the e-scouting, the research to find the unit. You're shooting, you're getting in shape, throwing a ruck on, going after it. Yes, it's hard. It's difficult. But that is what makes it worth it, in my opinion. If it were easy, everyone would do it. In those moments of difficulty, when you are finding yourself questioning why you're here, maybe I should go home, this is what you signed up for. This is the experience that you're going to remember a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, when you're telling stories to your kids, grandkids, your best friend. You're not going to tell them about the easy part. You're going to tell them about the time where you had to go up this hill, you were barely out of breath, but as soon as you got to the top, you got to your glassing spot, you saw a sea of elk. That's what you're going to want to tell. You're not going to want to tell the story about how you pulled up to the trailhead, got out of your truck, and shot a bull 10 feet from the truck. I mean, maybe you will once. It'll be a fun story and a fun thing to laugh at. But the things that are earned through difficulty are always the most rewarding. Type 2 fun. That's what we're after. So when you're in that moment and it's difficult, remember, you wanted this. This is what you've been waiting all year to do. Embrace it, enjoy it, and push through as long as you can. All right. That is everything that I can think of. That's everything that I do personally. But let me know, what did I miss? I'm at EndurHunt, EndurHunt on Instagram and basically all social media. If you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to leave a comment on this video. Let me know, what are things that you do to help yourself stay out in a hunt and not throw in the towel early. Send me a DM on Instagram. I would be happy to hear it. I want to hear from you guys. Would love to be able to follow up on this at some point and add things to the list that I didn't consider before and possibly employ them myself. If you're listening to this podcast, I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate the support. If you got anything out of it or if you enjoyed it, please share it with somebody that you think would benefit as well. It goes a long way with sharing the mission, and I just want to say I appreciate you all. Until next time, thank you.